Are leaders saying to you, or are you hearing that I don't got time to go create the emotional level and intimacy and vulnerability in the company and measure it? What is your view? Who would like to start?
Sorry, even when I've been in companies where they maybe acknowledged customer emotion as a thing, or like there was never any there was a lot of talk around adding some joy to a person's life, but there wasn't really any way to quantifiably measure that. Nobody ever really put any sort of actual data around it. They just sort of said, this is what we do. We add joy through our product offerings and our experience. And it was a very fuzzy thing, right? And it was really difficult to like figure out if you were doing it better or worse.
So you're saying the issue is that there's a common belief that it's too fluffy, you can't measure it, therefore it's do it, don't do it. That's what gets in the way.
Well, yeah, I think more for us, it was like even if someone was doing it, it was difficult to figure out how well or how poorly, and it was difficult to track or measure in that sense. Like even if we believed in it, which I think they did, that didn't translate into any actionable outcomes, right?
Hmm. Interesting. Okay, I have an answer to that, but I want to hear is it Ari?
Area. Yes.
Aria.
I think that we are talking here of two areas. One, it could be the emotion from the brand towards the consumers or the clients, and then the emotion internally within the same company. I think there are maybe two aspects. I think that in terms of the clients or people in general, companies or brands are always trying to engage with that particular audience. So some of the tools, let's say, that they have in terms of communications or their advertising is to create emotions, to create empathy with that prospect or client. The other aspect internally, I think leaders we are all humans, and we need to address any particular challenge or problems or inconvenience that our teams have. So in some aspect we need to let those emotions go out, but the leader in some way needs to keep few things in check because if the leader falls into the emotions and make decisions based only on emotions, things could go south.
Yes.
So yeah, those two aspects.
Yeah, you're correct so much in that there is the internal considerations, the internal customer, the culture, which we'll talk about, in the rooms after. And then there is that external, the one giving you the money. And I'm curious if anyone has actually seen firsthand that they're looking for the ROI, but has anybody seen the case study for it? Beyond the research that I'm citing here, what does it take if you haven't seen the research? What do you think it's going to take to convince these leaders to care more, to make business not so cold? What's it going to take?
I mean, if you think about it, effort is emotion. So you look at your customer effort score, that becomes an indicator in your business of where things are going. You can think about your own individual examples of a company you've dealt with where, you know, how can I put this delicately? We've been dropped on our head and not had a great experience. And from an emotional perspective, are we more likely to engage or disengage with that brand? And there's quite a bit of research that says if they own it, we actually will continue to do business with them. So, which would be counterintuitive to the wow experience so many of us have been trained on.
And trained on, by the way, I think is a great point because so many of us have been trained on net promoter score, satisfaction. But that's not enough anymore. Not at all. It's a great starting point.
I'm curious to build on the net promoter point, Stacy, if people, when they build surveys or other methods of feedback, incorporate the emotions they want customers to feel in their surveys.
Well, that's my recommendation.
Yeah. Great. There you go.
Absolutely. I mean, that's my own framework that does that. But that's why I'm curious what others are seeing. Are they starting to do that? Are you using AI to actually detect the emotions, the sentiments in your structured surveys and your social media comments? Who's really taking all that information? What a great use case of AI to extract that emotion and then identify those happy peaks and low points. Anybody doing that today?
Yeah,
Well, or
actually, I'm building a business around it for ultra luxury retailers. Using emotion as an anchor to build a frictionless experience.
how are you doing that?
Curated conversations, creating immersive experiences based on data and sort of understanding intent.
Mm-hmm. So is it a technology that's doing that, or
Oh,
is it?
yeah. So I have a patent on multimodal conversational AI. So keeping modalities contextually aware and perfectly in sync.
Yep.
So you can float between voice and visual and create really cool sort of branded experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's for
It's a little
internal
different. It's a little different. Let's put it that way.
customers or internal employees or both.
No, this is more for customers of like Louis Vuitton or Bloomingdale's or ultra luxury retailers that are really looking for something different. And I use an emotional anchor as part of the conversation to drive that experience.
Yeah, Kate.
Yeah.
I think that's really fascinating, Steve. I'd love to know more about that. And Stacy, I love this conversation that we're having because if you think back, if you rewind where we were back in the 1940s through 1970s when advertising was in its heyday and companies were for the first time realizing that through advertising they could create an emotional response in their potential customers. But that was the only way that they knew how to do it, is throwing millions of dollars out there for print and media advertising. There was no way to know if it was going to work until somebody came in and you saw, okay, we ran an ad, now there's more people. This new frontier that we are on the cusp of being able to take all of the unstructured data, whether it's the emails that people are sending or what they're streaming on their devices or the inflections in their voices when they're calling the contact centers through sentiment analysis, all of it is so exciting. And it is the perfect opportunity for businesses to realize what they knew back at the beginning, that marketing was about emotion and customer, it's all about emotion. And so I look forward to hearing more about this.
Awesome. Well, so it is about the time we want to go into our breakout rooms. And so one of the things we do, in these meetings is we try to get even smaller, more tighter conversations, because again, part of what CX on the Rocks collective is trying to do is focus more on conversation, more on, idea generation and sharing with each other. And so based on that, we're going to break into 2 breakout rooms. We're going to take this approach 2 directions. We've got this emotion concept that Stacy eloquently brought us to. We're going to take it from 2 different directions. We're going to look at outside in, which is really kind of more of that CX, maybe to even to EX focus, going from customer into the business from an emotional standpoint. And we're going to go inside out, more from the employee and really driving employee emotion to then impact customer emotion as well. So Matt, I know you're going to take us on one of those rooms. Maybe you do kind of a quick plug for your room, and then Brad for yours, and then we'll break up.
Sure, they're both really awesome topics, so there's no wrong choice. I'm going to focus on the outside in one, which is really about the connection of CX to brand and how you reinforce the emotional connection and then use that to drive the right customer behavior. That can connect to your employee experience too if people believe in the brand promise and deliver on it. So I'm going to take the outside in lens, and then Brad, you're going to take the inside out. You want to say a few words?
Yeah, for sure. Fundamentally, I don't think there's ever been a customer happier than the employee that served them. So if we're not focused on employee emotions, and if part of their job is to leave behind an imprinted memory of our branded promises, it might be good that their natural environment kind of generates, sustains, nurtures that, and we're very mindful about the emotions that we're trying to manage and project through the frontline employees that we have. So I'm going to be talking about employee experience and the powerful role emotion plays in all that.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to hit the open rooms and it should pop up on your screen. If it doesn't, at the bottom, there should be a breakout icon. You can choose which room you would like to go into. So inside out, outside in. So opening that up, and then I'll call us back, about 6-7 minutes before the end of our time together, and we'll do a little bit of a recap. But look forward to hearing what you guys have in this conversation. So opening rooms now. All right, welcome back. Who did I cut off in mid-sentence? Well, we were running out of time. I tried to give you as much time as I could to keep going and keep diving in, but we're roughly at the 45-minute mark within a few minutes here. Hopefully, many of you can stick around for a little bit of additional time. Sometimes people have to leave. Sometimes they can stay at least a little closer to the hour. Absolutely, hopefully, and as well, the conversation was great. So, Matt, maybe you get me started. I cut you off. So maybe you could share just a little bit and have the folks in your room share a little bit about the content you guys got into.
Well, I would ask Maddie and Sharon if you guys want to share quickly, because you each got to share with the group and what you took away from the conversation. Sharon, you want to go first?
I think it's just kind of a give and take. A lot of what I learned this is only the second time I've been on a call, is a lot of stuff is data driven. And we are still as a company trying to pull some of that together and where it's applicable. So just hearing other people's insight, what makes sense for us right now, we're just doing a little bit of trying to gain Google reviews in our business. We're a very service oriented company. It's a little bit different than other people on the calls. Ironically, when Matt was kind of sharing some of his experience with Hilton and how they measure some of their customer experience and emotions for their clients, that's going to drive an outcome.
And I
Awesome.
think for me, I was talking about, going through this exercise with a retail client that's a supermarket, natural food supermarket, and got, the value of actually narrowing down specifically which emotions people are feeling and which ones you want them to feel, and like having some kind of actual North Star and labels on what the emotions are that you're actually going after, so that you're making the choices that make sense to get there.
Yeah, and we talked about how you can use analytics to mine on data signals, like Stacy was talking about, and how you can evolve your surveys, but also how you can train your employees to be clue conscious to spot things.
Awesome. Well, and on that note, the other room kind of started employees out, so inside out. So Brad, how'd that conversation go, and who'd you like to share?
Problem solved. Everything's copacetic, and pleased to report that. No, I mean, we talked about basically frameworks. We talked about employee life cycle and key moments where we show up. We talked about the pandemic and how it kind of turned on a lot of emotions and being more empathetic and the importance of that. We talked about the role that mental health plays, both with Gen Zs and pandemic survivors, and that's all tied to emotions as well. We talked a little bit about measurements, but I don't know. We had a pretty active session. Everybody chimed in. So Kate or James or Avel or any of you guys, if you want to chime in anything that's worthy of sharing, please do so.
It's a complex topic, I mean, so obviously we didn't really solve everything because I think the pace of change is just accelerating so much right now that, what we used to think in terms of taking a long-term view when it comes to facilitating a culture that is customer centric through our employees, particularly in a B2C organization. People are, organizations are revolving doors of talent right now through both push and pull factors. That's creating a lot of challenges for organizations in terms of recruiting new talent and retaining talent that actually delivers long-term value to customers. And yeah, we got a lot to solve for. And I think AI was brought up, and obviously it's really important, but the importance of having that human in the loop facilitating a culture of empowering people to deliver better experiences to customers with the use of AI as opposed to AI replacing.
Mm-hmm.
Were you all
Yeah,
able to get into the discussion around whether or not leaders are prepared to lead an environment where emotions might be a little outside their wheelhouse? Because I know we get promoted for technical reasons, but the emotional discussion, did you all get into that space?
We talked about establishing operating principles, which are the social contracts that we maintain with each other, and how do you establish a sense of purpose, and what are the boundary limits for authenticity and being able to be trustworthy with your peers and your employees, and the key leadership role that plays, right? I have to act in accordance to our shared purpose, our shared mission and values. And if I don't, then I'm disingenuous and I'm going to be found out. And so we talked about that leadership responsibility to kind of define and set the tone of what our social contracts need to be within a culture. But did we talk about helping a leader be brave or acknowledge emotions matter? We just kind of jumped to a presumptive that's of course you're doing it that way.
Yeah, the reason why I bring that up is I want to bring it back full circle to what Stacy started us off with of why these conversations don't happen, because they're not comfortable and it's a different skill set. And it's a lot easier to focus on the numbers without necessarily the underpinnings and the frameworks to get us there, of which emotions is part of that equation. So I think that's definitely something to think about, is how do we prepare folks or equip them to be able to navigate, which is, quite frankly, a tricky conversation.
Fair.
Actually, I think emotional intelligence is a key factor for building really successful teams. That people come to gravitate towards me based on, how I've interacted with them in the distant past. And, when I'm building teams now, they respect that. And it's actually a useful tool to reach out and curate people for a really high performing team.
Where do you see AI coming into quality check emotional intelligence of leaders?
Oh, that's an interesting concept. I mean, there are many ways to kind of gauge semantic relevance or sentiment, right, in any kind of interaction. Doing it in real time is a bit more of a challenge than doing it sort of retroactively, like looking at conversations or sort of interactions that you've had in the past. So there's a lot you can do, but doing it in real time is extremely difficult with AI.
Well, you can always do training that's simulation. Like how many people have done practicing interviewing or difficult conversations with AI? That's getting better and better. You can listen to conversations to provide feedback, which is a play on the QA cycle that used to happen in the call centers. It's now that so many conversations are like this, you can actually, with the right context, do it for training. It's really creepy to do it all the time. But if you set up the right program with the right buy-in and the right coaching, people are more open to it. And then you can think about incorporating into your listening in a way that shares feedback with people. And frankly, I just find one of the most useful things is plain old mentalism, just self-reflection. Get people to think about the behaviors they want, make commitments to practice them, and then have a really simple check-in and journaling process where people engage and think about it, and then engage with others in the conversation, which doesn't actually require much AI other than if you have a program here to do reporting. But it actually drives behavior adoption that's much faster than just classroom training.
I also think that, yes, and that you can use, once you define the right questions when you're onboarding, even in hiring and the middle stage, and then even exit outboarding, you can ask the right questions, and then you could probably use AI to analyze what were the sentiments, like what were the problems, to be able to predict better hiring and and even predict that someone's not going to tarnish the brand on their way out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, I mean, and James, you mentioned it, and it's come up several times, this, the concept of AI can't replace humans and human empathy and things of that nature. And I fully agree with that, except humans don't often share empathy, or they don't take the advantage of that. And so I talked a lot to contact centers, and it's like, if you're worried about losing your job, then don't give it any reason that you might.
Right.
I had a situation at a hotel last week, and at 3 a.m. the fire alarm in my room decided to do that beep every 2 minutes, that shrieking beep. And once I realized it wasn't short-lived, I immediately called down to the front desk, and it was, and I got the reaction like I was bugging them, and no empathy. And they're like, "Well, I can't do anything for you because our system's doing the nightly audit check, and so it'll be 30 minutes to 45 minutes." I'm like, "Well, call me when that's up, because I need another room. I got to salvage some amount of sleep tonight." Finally, about 45 minutes, I went down. I had enough of it. I went down, and the lady there, same one I talked to on the phone, she was like, I was like, "Is your system up?" It's like, "Oh yeah, it's been up." It's like, "Why didn't you call me?" And again, no empathy. She's like, "Oh, do you want to check out?" "No, I want to get some sleep." So yeah, it just kind of comes back to, that's a horrible, example, but
It's
if we're
good.
gonna have EQ, have
it's a
EQ.
That was
perfect.
neither reliable nor friendly.
Exactly.
Right.
No, it's a perfect example, because if you're doing the bare minimum, then yeah, AI will replace you, because there's no discretionary effort, and that's what makes us human.
Yep,
So
exactly right.
I think we're all in agreement, right, that the emotions belong in business, and we all have different cases and experiences, both from a professional and a business standpoint. The question I leave you with, and I'd love to continue the dialogue around, is how do you make these executives who have no time, are under pressure, how do we make them care more, and it become a proactive purpose versus reactive, because we all will benefit as a society from it. I just don't see that we're there yet. How do we speed that movement?
You got to tie it to the bottom line.
Yep.
Bingo, you got to measure it.
Oh,
You got to change their focal range from end of the month and end of the quarter to 3 years from now.
there you go.
And how are you growing your entire customer base over time?
That's right.
Exactly. Well, we are running out of time. Thank you for most of you being able to stick with us for a little bit of bonus time. Just quickly, I'll cover the next two events are Solution Series. And as I mentioned earlier, you've got to be a member of the collective to be able to join us for those. The next one is on the 23rd, next Thursday at 12 noon Eastern. And then the following week on the 28th, it's actually at 11:30 Eastern. Those are 30 minutes long. And next week, we're talking about executive expectation management. And the following week, your CFO already approved your AI budget. You just don't know it yet. So some really great dialogue coming in those sessions, and we look forward to that. And we'll see you guys on the next upcoming sessions. If you're not a member of the collective, please join, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.